Hey YouTube, what's going on, and welcome to Sinister Garage. Today's video we are going to be doing a 4-month of ownership and 6,000 miles review of my 2025 Elantra N. Kind of different. I had a Civic Si and a Mustang GT prior to this. Life happens, things change, so this is now my daily driver. So we're gonna kind of hop right into the review here, kind of talk about where this car's placed at in the market and things like that, power, numbers, things that go with that. So starting out with the power figures, the car, the Elantra N comes with 276 horsepower, but if you hit this little red button, it gives you 286. There's crank, not wheel, and then for torque, it is rated at 289 pound-feet. This car's MSRP was right over 37,000. I think it was 37,045. Out the door, I got it for a little bit more than that. It came down $2,000, or about 1,500 MSRP price-wise. And then also, I traded in the Civic, so I got a little bit of a tax credit for that. So I paid about 1,000 less in taxes on the car too. This is the DCT, so that is the reason that it's a little bit more pricey. The stick, the 6-speed manual, comes in a little bit lower. I want to say it's about 35.5 maybe. I could be wrong about that one, but I heard the stick's very good. It's a nice little notchy shifter, not as good as the Civic, from what I've seen other people say that have jumped to the Civic from this. So price-wise, it's kind of in its own category with its competitors. The GTI is actually decently close, but the numbers aren't. It's got about 40 less on both sides of the spectrum. I think it's got like 240, but there's multiple different versions of the car. I think the base one starts at 30, and then you can get the Autobahn, which goes all the way up to like 40, 41, somewhere around there. So you got a little bit of an option with the GTI as a competitor, a little less power, but this car's in a weird category because that's really, like, other than the WRX, and that's an all-wheel drive car, you kind of have this car in its own category, which like its competitors such as the Type R or the GR Corolla, if you want to count that, even though it's all-wheel drive. Edmunds, I think, just released a video of this car beating it in a drag race, going down, doing a turnaround, coming back, and it beat the GR Corolla. The only thing it didn't do was, I think, beat it off the line, which is kind of a given. It's an all-wheel drive car. So it kind of, you know, punches above its weight class a little bit. And when it comes to price, the Type R starts at 47,000, and you don't get heated seats, and a couple other things. Like, this car comes with Bose sound system. I don't think the Type R does. Comes with a decent sound system. The SI comes with 200 and right around 200 horsepower, starts at 30 grand. Don't get me wrong, you got a good aftermarket for that car when it comes to, you know, power, numbers, things like that. And the price is pretty good, and it's a Honda. It's going to be decently reliable. That 1.5 liter engine's a little bit of a questionable thing. I just had a buddy that I think just hit 40,000 miles on his car, and it just blew the head gasket. I had another buddy that had his piston rings go out in the first 30 to 40,000 miles. I got a little lucky. My car had 113,000 miles when I got rid of it, and I'd never had a big issue. However, I was getting some signs of things starting to go wrong with it, and I was the third owner of that vehicle, so I wasn't the one in control of it all. All those miles. So for price and competitors, you know, it's right there. If you want, like, kind of similar platform, GTI is a little bit easier to do some things too. I know that they're not as finicky, and but they are, you know, it's a Volkswagen. If things go wrong, parts might be a little expensive, but this is probably just as expensive, so really doesn't matter. With this car you get a bigger warranty, 10-year 100,000 mile, you know, Hyundai staple powertrain warranty, things like that. Just don't give them a reason to get rid of it, because they probably will. So overall I think this car's priced pretty well. Performance is there. Coming from a Mustang GT, the acceleration does feel a little underwhelming. I had a 2024, what is this guy doing? I had a 2024, so I had not 300, my math is wrong, 200 more horsepower exactly, with that active valve exhaust, performance exhaust. Car was 286 crank. This is, or not 286, 486 crank. The torque numbers weren't as high, but that's okay. You know, it's a Coyote. Nobody expects a torque out of that. That's what the LT platform is for. So it does feel quick. It does feel quick. Compared to my SI, it definitely is a lot quicker. My SI had tuned downpipe exhaust intake. I was missing on the turbo inlet, but it doesn't really matter on the car unless you have a bigger turbo. And then also I didn't have a flex fuel because I didn't want to run a flex fuel kit on the car, mainly just due to the pain of having to measure the E and then make sure that I mix it right, things like that. Just whole headache. I didn't feel like dealing with it, so it never happened. So this car definitely is quicker. It feels great. The car and these Michelin Pilot Sports that it comes with factory, you get it on a good back road, and you can get some good grip in corners, things like that. The car actually impresses me. How I don't even hear the tires like chirp. It's actually very impressive. I take it out on drives on back roads sometimes where I try to give it as much as I can around corners, obviously with safety being the top priority. I'm not gonna full send it into a corner doing 120 thinking I'm gonna be able to take that, because I'm not in a Porsche or a GT3 car. I am in a Hyundai. I do gotta realize that, but for around $37,000, this car is pretty impressive. Like goods, obviously, you know, price to performance is pretty good. I do like the interior. I love these seats. I think they're super cool looking. They're actually pretty comfortable too. I know people complain about them, but I would say they're pretty comfortable. After about an hour and a half of straight driving, they do start to get a little uncomfortable, but just stop. If you're on a long road trip, just stop, you know, go use the bathroom, get up, walk a little bit. That's what I do. Every time I'm on a road trip, I normally stop every like hour to 2 hours to get up, use the bathroom, things like that. So it's not too bad. The reason I am slowing up around these corners, which I would give it more, is because this truck, I can tell, is not even going 50. So I'm gonna kind of have to pace behind him, unfortunately. And he's not even going around the corner right. He's going into the other lane to take a corner. Love that. So power's good. Interior quality is actually pretty good. It's a $35,000 car. I don't know why people say it's cheap. Yeah, there's plastic everywhere, but they did good job with designing it. You get buttons for your climate control, so you got a pretty good balance of things that you need, instead of it all being on a touchscreen, things like that. Please turn. Come on, man. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. Let's go. We'll give it a little bit of a pull here. Why not? So it's got some good good go to it. That was about 86. Interior's good. The car sounds good. I wish it was a little louder with the facelifted versions. I did see somewhere that the exhaust part numbers are different, in that this exhaust is a lot more quiet. It's a lot more contained with the pops and everything, as opposed to the 22s and 23s. You can fix that though with a mid pipe on this vehicle, which I do plan on doing at some point in the future, just to give it a little bit more volume, because I do like a little bit louder of a car. I had an H pipe on my Mustang, catless and full exhaust on the Civic, so I'm glad I don't have that anymore. I will not be doing that to this. I'm not doing a downpipe. This is my daily driver, unless for some reason I go get something that is just going to be straight daily, no pleasure driving out of it at all. Maybe then I'll do a downpipe. So it's got good power. It sounds good. You can actually hear the turbo spool a little bit with the stock intake. It sounds pretty cool when you got your windows down. You can't really hear it when the windows are up. Every driving mode in this car is pleasant. I don't drive in N mode a lot, mainly because I don't like the way the transmission works. If I'm just driving to work, I don't want to be in 4th gear, 5th gear the whole time, using extra fuel just because I can. I guess I commute a good bit every day, and so I normally just drive it in my custom mode, which is the engine, the Sport Plus engine. I drive it with 2 for steering on the settings, which is Sport. Suspension is on normal / comfort, and then exhaust obviously is on Sport Plus, and the transmission is on normal as well, to keep it from holding those higher RPMs like N mode. I do drive in eco mode a good bit as well, and this car, I've seen it get up to 38 miles to the gallon. That isn't on every drive, and that is not through a full tank. That is on like an hour on drive on some back roads. So 38 miles to the gallon is actually pretty decent, I think, for this car, given that it's rated at, I think it's 29. So we're in a good little middle ground there, between the Civic or whatever. Because my Civic, I'd get 44 miles to the gallon pretty often, especially doing highway driving and things like that on my way to work. All right, let's kind of tackle the negatives now that we're through the positives. Obviously, good interior, good power, good price to performance. I think great handling, great sounding car. The DCT is very quick at shifting. Sound system is very good from factory. Haven't had one of those in a while. The Mustang was pretty decent, but the Civic was abysmal. That was the worst sound system I've ever had in my life. So if you are in the market for a Civic, just know that your sound system is going to sound like garbage, at least in the SI. I don't know about the Type R, but if you can afford a Type R, go ahead, man. And the sound system, if you don't care about sound system in a car, you get the Type R. That's what I say. I think the Type R does look better, but I just don't see myself with an 11th gen Type R, the FL5. I wouldn't personally spend that much on a front wheel drive car that doesn't have heated seats, and things like that. Let's kind of get started off with the negatives. Like I said, first one is going to be actually the DCT. It is very jerky from like a stop and start kind of traffic thing. It doesn't want to make up its mind if it wants to be in 1st or 2nd gear, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a like back and forth motion sometimes. But that doesn't mean the transmission's bad. It's just jerky, and that is a feature of dual clutch transmissions. I know that wasn't something I was expecting, obviously, because this is my first dual clutch car. I've had automatics in the past. The Mustang was an automatic. That car was a little jerky, but it wasn't nearly as bad as a DCT, because I did have the 10-speed auto in the Mustang. If I had to go, next negative is going to be these vents in this car. They annoy the ever-living hell out of me, because they do not always shut off. I don't know how to word it. Like if I turn this off, I will still feel hot air blowing onto my feet. I'll still feel hot air blowing into the cabin if I had the upper part of the vents on. I would still feel that hot air coming into the cabin. Same thing with AC. You know, there's sometimes where you just have that perfect temperature outside. You want to have your windows down because it's not going to be too hot. It's not going to be too cold. It's literally just right. But if you have AC blowing on your feet or blowing into the cabin, you're going to get cold, especially if it's like in that part of the temperature where it's just on the lower side of being great. And then if it's hotter out, like if it's 87 degrees outside, I have hot air blowing into the cabin on me, and now it's just getting kind of miserable, and I don't want that. I just want to feel the outside air, have my windows down, and cruise. Another negative would be that check engine light coming on for an intake. Just an intake. Hyundai decided they wanted to add an extra sensor in there. I think it's like a crankcase pressure or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the sensor is, but it triggered the check engine light. So, and in summary, the 2025 Elantra N, and you can compare it to the 2024. I think it's a great car. If you don't mind going used and getting a little bit shorter of a warranty, I recommend that. Save yourself a couple extra bucks. And then honestly, I think it is up to you to go to the 2022 pre-facelift versus this one. You want to save a good bit of money. Those cars are starting to come down to about the $25,000 range for manuals, and I've seen the DCTs for a little bit more than that, but not too much. I think it's in a great spot for the kind of car it is. You get a lot of good price to performance. Reliability, don't be scared of it. I am a little bit still, just because of the stigma, just like everybody else. However, I've seen multiple people with 80,000 plus miles on these cars, 100,000 plus miles, without a single issue. Obviously, there's some outliers and people that drive their cars like crazy. So you got to take that with a grain of salt when somebody says, my engine blew up. Like, well, how were you driving, man? Did you change your oil? Did you keep up with maintenance? Like, what are you doing here? So, yeah, if you are in the market for this car, go out and buy it. Enjoy it, love it, and I'm planning to make more videos on this car in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for stopping by.